everyone, and welcome to another episode of Little Give. I cannot wait for you to meet our guest. Oh my goodness, she's doing some amazing things in this world. Go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from. Tell us what you're all about.
Oh my gosh. I am Lisa Richer. I am originally from Pennsylvania, but I live in Maryland now with my husband and my two boys, 14 and 18. And I'm not even sure where to begin with what I'm all about. We could ebb and flow in so many different directions, Cindy. So I'm going to ask you to guide me a little bit to get us started because I'm not really sure where to begin.
I would just ask you to just kind of tell us a bit about you. What are you all about? What is Lisa?
Oh gosh, a compassionate connector that loves to do things in collaboration with others to help others help themselves. That is probably what I would say I am at the core. I have a passion for helping people not go through what I went through over the years and to gifting forward the things that were gifted to me, especially in my early parenting years with two children that are neurodivergent. My first one, my first one is the one with the buzz and the doggy, and that doggy went everywhere with us for a very, very long time. The older one is Xander. My older one is Joseph. My little one is Xander. I was staring at Xander's eyes. And not knowing how to navigate the world as a first-time parent and having a child who was not typically developing. And so surrounding myself initially with people that didn't get it, that didn't understand me, that didn't know how to help me, or were just told me things would go away, even people that were my closest family and friends, to moving to California from Maryland for a while and being met by someone in a little gym who saw my son melting down, my oldest, and said, I know someone that can help you. And she was such a great gift, unbeknownst to me at the time, connected me with a behavioral psychologist who helped me start to understand our now 18-year-old and got us on the right track. I called them my dream team. There were about 5 or 6 people out in California that really worked with me early on and unpacking and packing and piecing together what was going on and helping me stay calm and sane. And all in the midst of my husband having a health crisis when my oldest was 8 months old, so all sorts of things happening. So I just know we talk about the little give when you and I talked about me coming on as a guest, and those give and takes. I wouldn't be where I am today had it not been for people wrapping their arms around me and helping me walk through the life to where I get to be today with Journey to Bloom and with some other great initiatives that I get to work on today and helping other parents and caregivers and professionals.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm not trying to cry right now. I'm not. But how beautiful is that you found these people, or these people found you, where you're able to just learn that hey, I'm not an anomaly, my family is not different. This happens all over the world, and to find the ways to work with your child's disability, it's just not everybody gets that opportunity. So what would you say to somebody out there who is experiencing this and they don't have that light bulb moment like you had?
Oh gosh. So you said not an anomaly. I want to first start with this. Even though I had all of those people with me, I still felt like an anomaly because I also am neurodivergent, and I didn't know that all those years. I just knew I thought differently. I did things differently. My family didn't ever really understand me. I felt like friends didn't understand me, and I had to fit their box. So I still felt like when I had all these people around me that I was an anomaly. What happened though, and what I would share with others is when you let somebody in and you let them see you vulnerable, unable to have all the answers and knowing it's okay to not be okay, that's when everything started to shift for me. And our behavioral psychologist was my first person that actually met us where we were and started to do these things with us to unpack all of this and to help me break down those walls. And I'll never forget, she said, my 2-year-old, now 18-year-old, was so empathetic. I would never have known it at the time. He was having meltdowns for hours at a time, throwing things, scratching, he couldn't regulate his system. His sympathetic nervous system was just so dysregulated and his processing was so delayed. He just couldn't get out what was in his mind. But she said to me, he's highly intelligent. He's very empathetic. I know we can find a way to help you help him. But right now, what I want to do is help you. And I asked her, I was like, well, I'm fine. What do you mean? I'm strong and I'm fine and all of this. And she said, no, really, how are you? And I just lost it. I cried on my couch for hours with her. And she asked me how things were with my husband as he got better from being sick, what I had feeling like I had been on an island with my only one son at the time. And she just held space for me. And so what I would say is, even if you feel like you're on an island and you are an anomaly, I'm here to tell you that you're not. And whether it's me that you would come to look at, to meet you where you are and to help you unpack it and move through it, as a parent, as a neurodiversity consultant, as an advisor, empowerment person, however you want to describe it, we're there. And you might have to find us. We might be a needle in the haystack. At least that's how you might feel right now. But we are there. And it's sometimes feels like the impossible task. But that's why I do what I do, because I don't want anyone to ever feel that the journey they're on is impossible. Because it truly, I'm here to tell you, it is not impossible. It's not going to be easy, but it is possible.
Hi, my name is Justin Clark, and I'm the president of the board of directors for Driving Single Parents, a 501c3 nonprofit serving the citizens of San Antonio and Bexar County, Texas. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about the great work that our organization is doing for the citizens of San Antonio. What you're about to see is just a few photos and videos of the way that we're changing lives for single parents in and around San Antonio, Texas. Our first giveaway took place in April of 2017, just one short month after the formation of our organization. John, a Bexar County resident, was the victim of a horrible drunk driver incident. He and his daughter survived the crash, and we were so proud to give our first car to this deserving family. Fast forward to 2020, a very difficult year for nonprofits. We were able to secure 4 vehicles for single parents in need. Our organization, including our board of directors, list of partners, and portfolio of people we've been able to help in San Antonio, continues to grow, and it's all thanks to donors and local community organizations that have helped us along the way. This giveaway took place in 2021 and shows that we continue to help single parents even after the struggles brought about by COVID-19. Because of limited funds and the overwhelming need, we at Driving Single Parents are incredibly selective with the people we help. Some are victims of domestic violence. Others had a spouse pass away tragically, or otherwise fell on hard times. These single parents show adversity in the face of challenge and aren't looking for a handout. We offer a hand up and help get them back in the driver's seat. Many of the single parents we help go on to graduate college, get promotions, get married, mentor others, and some have even been so touched by the gift we gave them that they have decided to join our board of directors to pay it forward and ensure the continued growth of our organization. If you would like to help our organization continue to grow and continue to help single parents in need in San Antonio, Texas, and Bexar County, Texas, we would really appreciate your support. Please visit us online at www.drivingsingleparents.org. Thank you.
Oh my God. You know what I love the most about what you just said there was like, it's okay to not be okay, you know? And I think that some people struggle with that. Like they're trying so hard to like, just be okay all the time, whether they're the mom or in a situation like yours. Like we always want to be everything to everyone all the time. But I do think that it's so important to be able to say like, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay. Like, and it's okay to ask for help when you need help. And so I love your mission because that's what it's about. It's like so many people out there feel like they have to be so perfect all the time. And I
Mhm.
love what you're doing where you're saying like, it's okay. It's okay to not be perfect. And I can help you with that. Talk to us a bit about how you feel people can be okay not being okay.
Um, let others in. I learned this the hard way. I always felt like I needed to be the strong one. I always felt like I needed to do it all. And it wasn't until I went into full burnout where I was laying on a couch for days, weeks. My best friend since I was 3, and I'm going to be 53 this year, and my husband were both like, oh my gosh, we don't even know what to do. We've never seen her like this. But it was in that moment that I had to ask for help. I had absolutely no choice because I couldn't do it on my own anymore. And I don't want anyone to have to get there to learn this lesson. But I also remember going to the doctor with my husband and saying, but I'm the strong one. And he said, whoever told you needed to be the strong one? And that was another time I just started bawling. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, I never told you had to always be the strong one. You don't always have to be the one to fix things. What that led for me, though, Cindy, was to getting help for myself and knowing that it's okay not to be okay. And while I had therapists for my kids, we got help for my husband when he was sick. I never took the time to get the help for me. And what I learned along the way is I wasn't caregiving all those years. I was fawning. I was living in survival mode. And once I realized that's what was happening and was able to kind of let go and unpack the things that I didn't know what I didn't know. And it's okay to not know what you don't know. And that's one of the things that I would say is my greatest strength, is being able to recognize what people don't know they don't know, not necessarily for myself. So the slide that's up now, when we're looking at this, as a mom, I've been there, but I'm going to shift to something that it says here. I grew up in the world of elite level gymnastics. I learned the meaning of sportsmanship, resilience, and how to navigate the world of competition at the highest level. I was traveling international when I was 10 and 11 without my parents. So in my mind, like it says here, navigating this journey with a child that was neurodivergent and then having 2 different neurodivergent diagnoses, I thought it was going to be easy. And I was so wrong. And so originally my business was Bloom Special Education Advocacy. But even then I was met with this like X, like, oh, you're a special educator, advocate. And it was like, no, you can't do that. And so in the midst of burnout, I stripped away every term that said anything about neurodiversity. Anything that said anything about special education. I took away advocate and I rebranded to Journey to Bloom. And I felt the courage to do so in part because that became my one word for the next, it's now going on 5 years. That became my word. But the word bloom has always been steady because my entire business, that word, my great aunt's married last name was Bloom. And she and I were like 2 peas in a pod. We were the black sheep of the family. We totally got each other. And I wanted a piece of her to be part of this journey. And if you look at my logo, my current logo, the hearts are the petals. If you look closely, you'll see it, they're heart-shaped. And then the leaves, it's a never-ending infinity heart because it's a never-ending journey that comes and goes and ebbs and flows. And if you're not okay giving yourself permission to recognize that vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness, despite what anybody else tells you, and you don't lean in to ask for that help or to ask somebody that may know someone that can help you, that may just be able to step back and listen and help you uncover what's going on and how to help you sometimes get out of your own way so that you can then help your family get out of their way. Once you do that, for me at least, everything shifted. People that I was meant to work with started to come to me. My moose on the table back there, having those hard conversations that everyone needs to have, but everyone's afraid to bring up. I started having those conversations, even though for all the years I spent in corporate, people would say, why would you say that? That doesn't make sense. Aren't you smarter than that? You should know how to do that. Well, what I learned about myself is I don't think the same way as others. I don't do things the same way. I look at the middle out. I look at all the avenues. And so I started to, instead of getting defensive, I started to get curious about those conversations, ask people what made them feel that way or what led them to respond to me how they did. So instead of me holding their energy in a negative light, I started to lean in with my curious energy, and it would put people to confusion sometimes and other times at ease, but it always led to breakthroughs, collaboration, connections, and ultimately results, whether it was within an organization, with a parent, with a caregiver, whatever it is that I was working on or who I was working with, we always ended up coming to a better place than we started.
Yeah. I mean, I totally see that. Like, it's like, I have this idea for this new book I'm going to write called Why Don't People Think Like Me? I mean, and isn't that how we all feel? Like, I think
Yes.
whether you're 8 or 80, you think like, why don't people think like me? And I feel like that's kind of what you're going through, or you've, been through, where you're like, okay, people don't think like me, but why, and then you're able to like explain that in a way that's like cohesive for other people and like to get them on board with you and your mission. So I think that's so cool.
Thank you. And for many, many years, it was me getting on board with their mission, and it never felt right. And it never felt good in my gut, and also partly led to that burnout because I was spending so much time trying to be something and somebody I wasn't, instead of allowing myself to let go of the people that just didn't fit in my life and allow space for those that truly were meant to be there.
So what would you say to somebody who's watching this right now? Like maybe there's like a teenager who's watching this right now, who's trying so hard to fit in, to like be perfect, to like be all the things. What would you say to somebody who's struggling with who they are at this moment?
Oh. That hits here. That's a hard one for me.
Hard questions, right?
No, it's now I'm going to get teary-eyed. So both of my kids are teenagers now. My oldest is graduating high school at the end of May, beginning of June. And he and I just had, he might be mad that I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. He and I just had a really deep conversation about trying to understand where anxiety comes from and what to do with those thoughts and how to recognize those thoughts, but not dwell on those thoughts and keep moving forward, knowing that sometimes you have no idea where those thoughts come from. So this is really, really timely because we just had this conversation yesterday. And one of the things that I said to him, and he's a teenager, was, first of all, I wish I had, I'm glad you have me as mom and not my mom. My mom was like, well, I don't get it. Why do you feel that way? That doesn't make sense. Unless you can explain it to me, we can't have this conversation anymore. As an adult now, I recognize because she didn't know what she didn't know, and it was uncomfortable. And many adults, my coaches, like many people in my life, just didn't know how to deal with a highly sensitive person that was an empath and was very intuitive. They didn't understand how to deal with me. But I said to my son, I don't want you going through all the years of what I went through, trying to have to prove myself or trying to explain myself in a way that makes sense to somebody else. So what I would say to that teenager is, it's okay if it's not your parents that really get you right now. It's okay if it's a teacher or a coach or one friend. And you don't have to explain yourself to anybody. In fact, the more you try to explain yourself, if you are an empath like me and a nerd and an ADHDer and a person that has anxiety, if you're like me, trying to explain yourself just led to more anger and frustration and just combativeness, because I just was like, why can't anyone just listen? I'm telling you as clearly as I can how I'm feeling. Can't you just ask me questions to try to understand me? And so if you're talking with someone that's how you're feeling, if that's what you're feeling like in your body, in your gut, in your heart, wherever, if it's the tingling or just doesn't feel right, trust your gut. because I now trust mine, and I'm happier than I have been since I was probably 15 years old. Over the last couple of years, I've just learned to just live as who I am and help educate others. But Cindy, if you and I had talked 3 years ago, I wouldn't be able to have this conversation with you, one, without tears, and two, as clear as I can now, because consistently practicing it and surrounding myself with people who get me, even if they don't understand me, they're willing to appreciate my differences. And that's what I would tell those teenagers is, if some of your friends don't understand, or even your parents don't understand, the person that does, you're not defying a family member or a friend by confiding in someone that hardly knows you, because they may know how you think much better than someone who knows you very well, because they know a piece of you or how they think you should be. The other person knows you as how you show up. And so when it feels right and you find that person, let them in and let them have that conversation. They will serve a purpose, even if they're only there for a short point in time in your life. One person that helps you feel like you're not alone and you're really not that different, like you're not that anomaly, like you were saying earlier, Cindy. To me, if I had just that one person, everything would have shifted for me so much sooner. And don't be afraid to share that with a friend or a teammate that you might know. Because I will tell you, I just reconnected about a month ago with a teammate because there was a tragedy in her life. And I hadn't talked to her since we were probably 14. And she probably knows me. Just felt that everywhere. So I'm sure she knows me. She knows me better than even my best, closest friend of 40 some years from that point of view, because she lived and grew up the same way I did, with her family not understanding her, being told you're too emotional, you're too sensitive, you're too this. But now today, something that's so different in today's world is that people are understanding, especially after COVID, they're recognizing the mental health, they're recognizing the emotional components, the metaphysical. So find that person and share your truth, because you may be shocked that they will also wanted to put their voice on the table, but they were so afraid of being shut down. You might be that person that saves each other.
Hi, my name is Andrew Fraley, and I believe that sometimes we all need a little bit of help. If you're in the San Antonio community and you need some legal help, call me at 210-725-4658.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important to really get in touch with yourself, and understand, and I'm a big believer in think in ink, if you think in ink and you write down how you're feeling and what you're feeling and kind of get in touch with that, I think that's so important. And then I think just like what you're saying is okay, now we think in ink, right? We write it all down, and then we find somebody we can confide in and think about how we want our futures to be. And I think that's so, so important. But I think it's so interesting how nowadays we're kind of so alone, even though we have access to people from around the world, but we feel so alone. What are your thoughts on that? How, right now we have social media, right? And we can connect with people from all around the world, but yet we feel so alone. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to go back to your think in ink for a second, and then I'll talk about that. I love that. And I want to just reiterate, because when I stopped doing things through talking into my phone or typing my thoughts and actually put pen to paper, that also shifted how my sympathetic nervous system was handling things. Because what I found out was that it shifts to a different part of your brain. Now, my therapist told me this, right? So I'm not a therapist, so I don't know that. But just writing those things down really helped to uncover and get you out of that fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode of, instead of being stuck in freeze, you can shift your thinking, and it unintentionally maybe or unconsciously it starts to uncover those. So I just wanted for your listeners to hear that, because it's so true and such an important thing. Regarding being alone, I keep hearing this phrase, I'm not alone, but I'm lonely. And so that's what came to my mind as you were talking about social media, right? There's so much out there, but there's so much out there. And it's so easy to hide behind the social platforms and all of that. And it's interesting that you bring this up too, because recently, well, about 3 years ago, I started on this endeavor with the founder of what's now called Achieve Quality of Life. And she asked me to get involved in the organization we just launched at the end of January. And I didn't even mention this when I was prepping with you because I didn't know if it was going to come up, but I'm the Integrative Collaboration Officer. And it's built by caregivers for caregivers. And we connect caregivers and innovators of all different ways. And really, it's like a platform for empowerment and wellness. It's a platform for integrative wellness and growth and empowerment. And we call it like the destination for those things, because when you're across the world, but you still don't feel connected by something that others don't get or don't understand, or a way of making yourself feel better, whether it's coaching or gut health or mindfulness or whatever it is, and finding the people that you need to connect to, whether it's Western or Eastern medicine, we wanted to disrupt caregiving in the 21st century, and giving people that connectedness across the globe was one of the things that we were thinking about. And so people are lonely from so many different ways because they're not feeling that connectedness. So I agree with you, and we're hoping to be a little part of it. We're looking here at my website, and being that ally and being that thought partner. One of the reasons I chose to lean in and be part of the leadership team for that organization is I see it as an extension of what I do with Journey to Bloom, and being able to just reach that many more caregivers. Initially, I was going to do my neurodiversity consulting there and coaching, or doing like advisory and transformation work with parents that needed to help their kids navigate the neurodiverse learning journey. And what I realized was I needed to keep that within Journey to Bloom and have a broader mission with that other organization. And in fact, you're looking here now at the neurodistinct support for professionals, because I also recognized every child deserves to live their best life. And that's something I talk about on my website. But those children grow up to be adults, many of us undiagnosed until we were in our 40s or 50s. And we now don't know what we don't know, or know how to engage and collaborate without being combative or defensive, because others still don't get us. And so combining the early learning through high school with the young adult through adulthood with the neurodiversity consulting, I get to now help people bridge those gaps for themselves. And oftentimes they'll have a child that also has a diagnosis of something similar, that what they maybe have been undiagnosed with. And those also help you feel less disconnected.
Oh, wow. Okay. So lots to unpack here. I think it's so incredible that you're showing and showcasing that adults can have problems too, and oftentimes there's so much focus on the young people, which I think is amazing. I think that's so needed, but it's not often. And I do this show for almost 2 years now, and I've never had somebody come on to talk about how adults have these problems too. And I think that's so cool to highlight, you don't have to be perfect as an adult. You can have these issues and we can work through them. And I love the fact that you're shining a light on adults who are not perfect either. And I think that we're often expected to be perfect. We're the mom, we're the dad, we're supposed to be figured, we have it all figured out, And I just love that you're just highlighting this part. I've never seen that before on this show. And I just want to give you big props for doing that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I spent so many years, I recognized this just yesterday. I was in a call with somebody and I said, I never realized that I lost my sense of self twice. I thought I just lost my sense of self once. Because as an elite level athlete, I got injured leading up to the year 88 Olympics. I didn't even go to championships that year, so I didn't get to go to the Olympic trials. And I was Lisa the gymnast. So I lost my identity and my sense of self. And then through college and into working early on in corporate, I started out being a gymnastics coach. I'm like, oh, that's my crutch, when really it was my passion. So I could have kept doing it, but I'm like, oh, I need to go work at a corporate. And then when I went to corporate, I once again went back to getting beat down. Like, you don't think like us, you don't do things like us, or why can't you do it this way? And it got so bad that I got hired to do certain things that I ended up getting let go for those same things. So I got hired to do certain things, like get underneath somebody else's weaknesses to help a leader grow and be a better leader for their teams. But then as I got underneath of the things that those leaders weren't connected to and needing help to grow in, I became the one that didn't know what I was talking about. And I just started to believe them to the point where stories would come to me and I'd have to go ask somebody else, did I say that? Because I don't think I said it, but could I have said it? And it got that bad. And then at that point yesterday, in talking to this person, I realized I had lost my sense of self as a child, but I also had lost my sense of self in corporate as an adult. And so it just brings forth, again, even more of that disconnect or connectedness. And as we talk about that teenager, we also need to talk about that adult that's still not come to terms with how that teenager felt. And that's something that I do a lot of work with my therapist on, is unpacking those things from my younger years that trigger me, that I don't even realize they're triggering me because they were deep-seated and they happened so long ago, but they ended up creating this people-pleasing way of just, I'm in survival mode until I burnt out. And so if we don't talk about both sides, then we're missing the whole interconnectedness of, you're still someone's child as an adult, right? And if you didn't get it taken care of and you didn't recognize it earlier, it's eventually going to come back to bite you. And that's the other thing that I would say, is it will come back to get you, whether you think it will or not. I never thought it would catch up to me, and it did. So I would be shocked if it doesn't catch up to the listeners too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things too is to think about is, like, if you're not fully healed as an adult person, you're not fully in a place where you can, give to the next generation. Like, maybe you're, not able to, like, be showing up as the biggest part of you, right? So, like, if we're not dealing with this childhood trauma, or we're not dealing with this PTSD we have, or we're not dealing with, whatever it is we're growing through, it's like really hard for us to show up for our children the way that we need to. And I think that's really important, is like to fully heal ourselves, so that we can be the best version of ourselves for our kids and their kids and their kids and their kids, right? And then those people, our kids, will have their own children and they'll show up for their children the way they should. And I think that's really, really important. So I love the fact that you're highlighting the fact that, like, us as adults, maybe we're not healed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's it's so true. And if I hadn't taken the time to heal, I would never have shifted from coddling, and I can admit it now, coddling and enabling my kids. So for my one son, I would just like lean in and protect him when somebody would push back on him, and I would see the face of like him just freezing, because that's how I felt as a kid. That's how I felt like I would shut down, because people were coming at me instead of coming with me. And so I would go in to protect them. Or my other one, I would just enable them to do things. And I'm like, or I would speak for them. And that wasn't helping me let them become their best version of themselves. And it was through the last 5 years that I've recognized, oh my gosh, I just need to let them be, because if I model for them, I know that I'm going to treat them the way I wanted to be treated, but without that trauma, without that PTSD, like, right, without those scars taking over. They can be there, but what are they teaching me instead of what are they telling me to do or how to act? They can be part of me, but they should not own me any more than when somebody gets diagnosed with a disability or any, like a neurodiversity umbrella term, right? Like ADHD or dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, whatever it is. If you don't allow it to define you, if you allow it to inform, then it will help you. And I never really thought I cared if I would get diagnosed officially with ADHD. But what was interesting was when my therapist said, "Oh, you were officially diagnosed by me a long time ago, but I also diagnosed you with fawning and burnout, and I didn't want to overwhelm you. It was really interesting because I felt lighter, and I thought, okay, now I can own it and I can educate others on it even more confidently. And so for me, I didn't think it even mattered. But then once I recognized it, and I thought, well, I need to use this the same way I tell my clients to use it when their kids get diagnosed, and the same way I used it for my children. Let it inform the people that you come back to, the people that you let go of, the people that you choose to lean into, and building that dream team that we were talking about earlier on, whether it's someone like me or someone in your area or someone totally different. Find your people, because I promise you they're out there. And when you give yourself permission to know you don't have to go it alone, everything shifts.
Oh, I could not agree more, and I think that's the whole thing is like, we're often labeled like, oh, you're this or you're that. It's like, no, I'm an individual. Like, I have my own set of strengths and my own set of weaknesses. And like, I'm not perfect. I'm never to be perfect. And I think it's so important for people to understand that, like, you are uniquely you. And that's a good thing. And I think with our young people these days is like, they don't get to see that. They always just see themselves as like not enough. Like, they look at, social media or whatever, and they're like, I'm not enough. They go to school and like, maybe they're not the best reader. Maybe they aren't the scientist in the room. Maybe they're not doing as great at history than other people are, and they're comparing themselves. And I think that it's so hard now, because if you don't fit in this box, then you're no good. And I think that's so wrong. And I think that our young people should know that, like, man, you're uniquely you, and that's awesome. That's amazing. It's so freaking awesome. Like, that's so good. And I don't think that they get that these days.
Absolutely. And I just wrote something down. Like, that's another thing about me is if I don't write it down, I don't retain it. And so I used to interject constantly, because people at corporate would tell me, if you're writing it down, you're not paying attention, you're being disrespectful. When in reality, if I wasn't writing it down, I wasn't remembering anything. I couldn't. And then I had to interject. So, so again, social norms or social expectations. But you had said we shouldn't be in a box. And I wrote down, change the environment, not the person. Change the environment, not the person. I cannot emphasize that enough. My oldest, we were told he'd never go to a normal school. We had to get all these supports. He's graduating they don't do rankings anymore at his private school. He's graduating towards the very top of his class. I don't know if he's going to be number one or not, because I don't know what the rankings are. But he's graduating towards the very top of his class, going to be in college all the way to get a PhD in physics. Had I listened to the psychiatrist who initially diagnosed him, it wasn't the behavioral one we worked with. It was someone through like a state program that we needed to get those diagnoses in order to get him some services for different types of related services and supports. If we had listened to them, and I hadn't felt in my gut that there was so much more, and trusted those people that became part of that dream team for me, that behavioral psychologist that said it's there, we just have to unpack what's not working and build those tools and give them the scaffolding and the supports and the resources. It was like taking scratches off a CD-ROM. He didn't even know how to engage with other kids. So he had to learn how to socialize in the way that worked for him, not the way that worked for others, but just in general, he didn't know how to engage in conversation. My younger one also is in a private school now. His anxiety was so bad that there's a picture on my website of him that has his computer over his face. And that was a picture I took. There it is. That was a picture I took of him during virtual learning in COVID. I took it because I wanted to show the teachers this was him trying to regulate. He was clearly not accessing FAPE, free and appropriate public education, through virtual learning, because he couldn't even regulate. And so he was spinning around and eventually just lay down with his fingers like that, like, trying to do anything. Somebody was on the screen talking to him, but he clearly was not engaging in conversation with them. And we knew we had to change his environment. He was not even writing 3 sentences. He was reading on like a 3rd grade reading level. And within a year and a half, not even a year and a half, within 8 months of being at this new school, all of his IEP goals that he had for over a year, that they would shift like a word or two to make it look like it was a new goal, he had blown them away. That our central office person said, didn't we just put these goals in place in December? It's like May. How did he meet all of those reading and writing goals? Because we changed his environment, not him. He wasn't doing anything wrong. The way that they were teaching him wasn't working for how he learns.
And I think we need to really start changing the way that, education works, because these kids are so freaking smart. They're so smart and they're so able to like do all the things. It's like, but you have to like teach to the kid. Like you can't like have this blanket, expectation for every child out there and say, if you don't fit in this box, you're no good. And I think that's something we really need to work on, education wise moving forward. So thank you for sharing those stories, because I think it's so important for any kid who's out there listening today to this, that you're not wrong. You're not bad. You're not incapable, like there is so much out there for you. We just have to find the right way to, work with you on what you're good at.
Absolutely. And parents out there, when your child tells you it doesn't make sense, trust them that it doesn't make sense. I learned that I had dyscalculia because my younger son, that's also something he has. And I always said that math was a foreign language. And I never understood why until I started researching dyscalculia for one of my clients. And then we realized that my younger son had it. And I thought, oh my gosh, it is a foreign language to me. My brain does not understand numbers like other people's brains do. And so it was like another light bulb moment for me. Visual processing disorder. My younger son has that. I found out through getting trained for a program at a home. The therapist said, you did gymnastics, right? How did you ever do like mounts and dismounts? Did you ever feel like the springboard was moving back and forth as you were getting closer to it, or the end of the balance beam? And I'm like, yeah, why? And she said, because your depth perception and your peripheral is so off that no wonder you always misstepped or might have tried to almost miss the beam. She's like, you had to compensate so extensively to get your eyes to do what you wanted them to do because of your depth perception and peripheral differences. And when my dad said, why didn't anybody tell us about that? I said, that's a great question. We didn't know what we didn't know. There were not vision therapists out there. There wasn't the testing and assessments that are there now. So when your child, no matter what age they are, tells you something feels off, listen to them, ask curious questions, let them be heard and seen. And if you don't understand them, find someone else they can talk to that will understand them. That is how you're going to give them the opportunity to be the best self that they can be. And it's going to release the frustration that you have trying to make things right for them when sometimes the way we think isn't the way our children think, and it's not going to be right for them. And I'm still learning that. Even though I get a lot of what my kids are going through, I'm still not them. I'm not my spouse. I'm not my parents. So giving that grace and space to just listen without judgment and get curious, it changes everything. At least it did for me.
Oh my goodness. I can't even, I think I'm at a loss for words, because I think you just said everything right there. And that one little snippet is like, we're all thinking differently, and that's okay. And that's a good thing. And I think these kids need to hear that, where it's like, it's okay that you don't think like everybody else. It's okay. It's good. It's awesome that your thoughts are different than everybody else. And that's what makes you special. And I think sometimes nowadays it's like, well, I don't think like everybody else. I'm wrong. I'm bad. I'm no good. I don't fit in. I'm not cool. I'm not good. And I think that like shattering that stigma around these kids feeling that way is what we need to do. And so what you just said right there, where it's like, if you don't understand how you're thinking, that's okay. Find somebody who understands you, who you understand. And then you can actually move forward in a cool way, because you are uniquely you, and there's nothing about you that's wrong.
Yeah, you're just different.
And that's cool. Isn't that
Yeah.
so cool?
Yeah.
Like, I love the fact that me and my husband are so different, because then I see things different than he sees things. And I think that's so awesome. And I think that's how we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be different because we can support each other in different ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But we were taught growing up to be one way only, right? Like, do that this way, be this way. Society deemed what was appropriate. And so having to undo what the society told us to do. Like, I joke with people sometimes that whoever said that you had to wear a suit to be professional did not have any sensory issues, because I've always felt like I was in a straitjacket. Like, I worked at a bank for a while. And when I was working in the bank, we had, like, I literally felt like this. It was, I had to have a suit with the jacket and the white shirt that got up to my collar that I was constantly pulling on, the skirt I couldn't move in, the pantyhose, the high heels. I'm like, put some sweatpants on me and give me a sweatshirt and I am in my glory. Or even like that. Yes, exactly. Or whatever, but let me be me. I'm my best self when I get to feel like myself, not feel like someone else expects me to feel. Like, I talk about, my older son had so many sensory issues. He was wearing sweatpants and Crocs for so long that the first time he was in a chorus, the chorus instructor said, can we get him in the shirt? Because we need everyone to at least look the same up here, like a uniform, right? So he had sweatpants on and black sneakers with the button-down shirt. A couple of years later, we ended up getting him into the pants, and now he goes to a private school where he has to get dressed up, and he's learned to deal with those sensory things. But that person met him where he was, and they helped him feel like he fit in, so he didn't stand out like a sore thumb, but still be who he was. And but society tells us not to do that. But I feel like that's one thing that the younger generations, I guess, are doing right. Like, there's some things that I'm just like, okay, guys, come on, we have to like meet each other again, like meet somewhere in the middle. But standing up for something that doesn't feel right to you and recognizing it's okay to ask for help. There's a lot of people out there that still aren't doing that, but there are also a lot of people that are willing to do that. And the more we lean in and share that it's okay to not be okay, that it's okay to surround yourself with people that light you up and to let go of people that make you feel smaller and indifferent, it's okay. It's okay to say no to things so you can say yes to other things. And as a people pleaser, or a covering people pleaser, I said yes to everything for so long. And then at one point I was so mad when people just kept asking me to do things. I'm like, leave me alone. And then one day it was like I slapped myself in the face and I realized I let them do this to me because I kept saying yes when I really wanted to say no. And then I got mad at them for still saying, help me, because I kept letting them. I needed to set boundaries. I needed to do things for me so that I could give my best pieces of myself to them. And funny enough, they didn't get mad at me for saying no. I mean, sometimes people did, or they would look at me like, what do you mean you're not going to come help me with that? And it was other people telling me I need space. I need to reschedule a meeting, or I can't meet with you now. I have to focus on this. It was other people that got me, that started to tell me they didn't have time for me right now, or not yet, that I realized this had nothing to do with me anymore. And I stopped taking it personal. And I started realizing they were putting themselves first. And what was it going to take to put me first? And that also helped with that balance, having the courage to say no to things so that I could reset, recharge, and give my best to whatever it was I was going to focus on.
Oh my goodness. I could sit here and talk to you like literally all day. Wow. So much insight in that. And like, just like really giving the structure to people for them to understand, like, it's okay to be you. And I love what your message is. I think it's just incredible. I would love to switch to my little give question. So can you give the audience an example of a time in your life where somebody did something little for you that might have been a little give on their end, but really made an impact on you and in your life?
Yeah. I'm going to the first thing that pops into my mind is that therapist. I'm going to have to go back there. That therapist sitting on the couch with me when I knew that we were there because we needed to figure out what was going on with my only child at the time. And her just sitting with me and then asking me that one question, how are you? And I'm like, oh, when I said, oh, I'm fine. And she said, no, really, how are you? That little give, that little like space for her to just sit there and talk to me and let me process it, but not get away with it. So she gave me the space to be me without judgment. And that little give, I think it was a little give, opened the floodgates, literally and metaphorically, for me to then start trusting that there were other people like her out there that were truly there to help me help myself, so that I could then in turn help my first child and then eventually also help my other child. And now get to help many different parents and caregivers and professionals on their neurodiverse learning journey, whatever stage they're at.
Oh my goodness, that could not be a better answer. Wow. Wow. You just gave it all. Like, thank you. Can you give the audience an example of a time in your life where somebody did something little for you that might have been a little give on their end, but really made an impact on you and in your life?
It might very well be the person that asked me to be part of this new initiative, the Achieve Quality of Life, because this was her giving me her baby, if you will. Like Journey to Bloom was my baby. And this was her vision and her passion and her asking me to walk arm in arm with her and trusting me to help her not only lift this off the ground, but invest a lot of time and effort into making it what we believe it's going to end up being. I know the impact we're going to have and what it's going to do for others, but she trusted me. And it was probably our second or third conversation. We still have never met in person. We met through somebody that we mutually knew through LinkedIn. And yet our conversations led her to say, I need you to help me make this happen. That little give gave me so much confidence in, wow, I really do have a lot to offer. And even though people don't always get it, that impact that I know I can have on others, and she's trusting me to help her make that impact, that was a big deal.
Aw, so sweet. And that's the whole thing, is like that moment of like somebody trusting you that much. That's beautiful. What about
Thank you.
nonprofits? Are there any nonprofits that you're excited about?
Yes. So by Within For Autistic Adults, I am the chair of the board. So yes, it's dear to my heart as well. But I started out on the board as being a board member, and then I was the secretary, and then I was asked to be the chair. And I said yes. I'd never been the chair of a board before, but By Within For Autistic Adults is the majority of our board is autistic and or knows someone that's very close to them that is autistic or lives with autism. So for example, I'm not autistic, I'm ADHD, but my oldest son is autistic. And then a couple of our board members are autistic as well. And so it's by Within For Autistic Adults, meaning that the programs that we put in place, the board that we have, the programming that gets put out there here, and Launch You is up here, My Life on My Terms. So part of our programming is Launch You. And I think one of the other tabs will show you Launch You. And it's really about self-determination and resiliency and being comfortable with who you are, knowing who you are, and allowing you to see how others see you, so that then you can put goals in place that get you to live the life and achieve those goals, whether it's a habit or a goal of a job, whatever that goal is, and this says it really well. It gives you a unique opportunity to think, learn, and talk with other autistics and allies. And it's really embraced in like a think tank kind of way. So you're with other people that may not know you, but they'll get you because they might have similar experiences or even very different experiences and are at different places in their life, but they can work together and collaborate and feel safe to share, and then hopefully to continue forward in moving toward reaching those goals by being given the tools, the scaffolding, if you will, the foundations to then implement and execute on the things that can help them reach those goals going forward. It started out as it's all adult ages, but we had talked back and forth about, is it younger adults or older adults, and what is it? But really, it's just serving the autistic community in a way that we don't believe is currently being served, and that we can make an impact across the globe from that perspective.
Wow, what a beautiful nonprofit, and the fact that you're a part of it, and like, it's just amazing. Thinking through like all the people who need this service. Like, I just, it's so touching. So thank you so much for being on today. I've really enjoyed getting to know you and what you're all about. And then, of course, that nonprofit. Tell the audience where they can find you and where they can get to know more about you and all you do. And then also that nonprofit.
Absolutely. So you can find me at journeytobloom.com. You can also find me, you can reach out to me at my email address, which is lisa@journeytobloom.com. So very easy to find. On LinkedIn or Facebook, you'll most easily find me Lisa Lazar Richer. My maiden name was Lazar, Lazar. So Lisa Lazar Richer. And those are probably the easiest ways to find me. And then if you want to learn more about the nonprofit, you can go to buywithinforautisticadults.org. And if you also want to see more about me as well, you could also go to that other organization that I was saying that I'm doing the work with is achievequalityoflife.com. And that's the one that's with caregivers, for caregivers, anybody that's in a caregiving space, no matter what it is, we work with them. So those are the different ways you can learn more about what I'm working on, what I'm doing. The easiest way to get me would be through journeytobloom.com. There's also a way to just reach out to me there. But yeah, so now we have the Achieve Quality of Life. Thank you. And I didn't give you that link, so I just had to Google that. See, Andrew's very creative and quick. So thank you for putting that up there. And this is some ways, and the experts that we connect experts to the caregivers. And it really is about recognizing you're not alone. And, we're here to help one another no matter what. And everyone's not your people, but I promise you, your people are out there. You just need to sometimes get creative or reach out to someone like me, and I can help connect you to those other people, because being a connector is really, really important to me, being in collaboration with people like you, Cindy, and others, because we can't reach the masses without doing this together.
I couldn't love it more. Thank you so much for coming on today. And I think it's so important for all people out there who are watching that, like, not everyone's going to be your cup of tea, and you're not perfect and nobody else is either. And some will, some won't. So what? So we just have to work together to like figure out like who are your people, and it's okay to be different. And so I am so grateful that you came on today, and everybody out there who's listening, she told you all the ways to get in touch with her, to find out more about what all she's working on to make the world a better place. And if you are excited about that nonprofit that she featured, please do go visit their website, find out more. And if you're passionate about it, go donate. $1 or $5 can make a huge impact to these nonprofits. So thank you all so much for watching. And guess what? We'll see you all next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode of Little Give, head on over to our website. At littlegive.com, you'll be able to find all the information about previous episodes and past guests that we've had on. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on Little Give, all the information is also on the website. And if you have a nonprofit that you love and would like to recommend be on the show, all of that information is also on the website. We really appreciate you watching today, and we can't wait to see you again next week.